Magic is absolute power in this fantasy world. Dragons also frequented every city, so it was a familiar sight. Humans believe that magic is a gift given by God. Everyone who has marks on their limbs can use magic. The everyday life of people in a fantasy world is filled with magic. They can use magic to their heart's content, anytime, anywhere. Even magic can be a benchmark to determine the social status of everyone in this world. But there is one person who is born without magic and lives in the forest with his adoptive father. He is Mash Burndead. Mash's existence was a figure that defied the laws of nature in this fantasy world. He trains daily with heavy weights that are beyond human reason. Even animals get scared seeing Mash's power. Mash also really likes cream puff. On the other hand, Mash's adoptive father, Regro Burndead, deliberately lives with his son away from the city for some reason. Not long after, Mash came home after finishing his physical training today. Of course, Regro was angry with Mash because he had repeatedly broken doors like this. Then Mash regretted his behavior and promised to fix a door like this. Then Mash and Regro talked casually as usual. Regro always reminded Mash to do physical exercise every day. It will be useful for Mash's life. Then Mash was curious, why did Regro only provide physical training? Regro was silent for a moment, and he really couldn't answer Mash's question. In his mind, Mash was very different from the people in this world. He had been born without a mark. Mash couldn't use magic. Regro also hasn't told Mash many things. He only told Mash to do physical training for years. Then Regro wanted to go out for a while and warned Mash not to go to town again. Regro is worried that something will happen if Mash's whereabouts are known by everyone. But Mash didn't follow Regro's words and still went to town to buy his favorite snacks. When Mash arrived at the cake shop, he immediately ordered cream puffs and paid for them. But Mash was so excited that his grip on the coin dented it. Of course, the seller was surprised because this coin could not be dented that easily. Then Mash immediately straightened his coins again, and this was the reaction of the cream puff seller. After Mash got his favorite cake, suddenly the wind blew his mantle and everyone saw his face. They were surprised because Mash had no mark of magic on his face. On the other hand, Brad Coleman, who was working as a police officer as usual, heard on the radio that this year's Divine Visionary had been assigned. The student who was chosen to be the Divine Visionary was named Rain Ames, a student at Easton Magic Academy. The title of Divine Visionary was blessed upon him because he had set the highest example in the academy. Even Rain was raised to the nobility and given much prize money. When Brad wanted to return to work to torture a thief, suddenly another police officer contacted Brad. He told Brad that there was a boy with no mark of magic roaming the town, so he needed to be arrested immediately. Then Brad immediately went to where Mash was. When Mash was eating his cream puff and wanted to go home, suddenly, a police who was drunk with vodka bumped into him. The policeman was angry because his uniform was dirty due to exposure to Mash's cream puff. Mash didn't say anything and just looked at the police. But the police continued to scold Mash, and Mash must be held responsible for his impolite behavior. Then Mash immediately took off the police uniform like this. Shortly after, Brad got there and was going to arrest Mash. But suddenly, Regro took Mash away from there as soon as possible. Of course, Brad wouldn't let them escape and made a familiar to follow them. When Mash and his father got home, Roger scolded Mash because he had disobeyed Roger's orders. Then Mash regretted what he had done and would not repeat it again. Mash was a quiet and kind boy, so Roger didn't scold him for long. Then Roger told Mash to do physical training again in the forest as punishment. Mash obeyed Roger's orders and gave him cream puffs. When Mash wanted to leave the house, Roger immediately opened the door because he didn't want Mash to break it again.
No! どうぞ。ありがとう。雨を思って町を避け、森に隠れて暮らしてきたが、ま、あいつも外に出たい年頃か。
Then Roger saw something colorful in the shape of a bird outside the house. He didn't know what the creature was, and Brad and his two friends arrived there, then broke into Roger's house. He wants to know where Mash is now. On the other hand, Mash trained physically very quickly without getting tired for 5 minutes. When Mash came home, suddenly he heard Brad and Roger's conversation from outside the house. Brad said that Roger had been hiding Mash on purpose all this time. Everyone who can't use magic will be banished and killed. Born without a magical mark is a weak, lowly human, has no privileges and would hinder people's lives. Brad tortures Roger so he can hand over Mash to the police. Roger had violated the established rules, but Roger still didn't want to mention Mash's whereabouts. Then the story goes back from when Roger was still a child to an adult. His parents were disappointed that Roger couldn't use magic properly. His magic energy was too weak, and Roger's family didn't need him as a failed child. When Roger lived alone, many people at work were disappointed with Roger's work. Many people behaved the same way when he was an adult. Magic is absolute power in this world. Because of that, Roger decided to commit suicide because no one accepted his existence. But when Roger wanted to carry out his intention, suddenly, a baby was crying loudly near the bushes. He immediately approached the baby, and he was surprised because this baby did not have any magic marks. The baby was abandoned by his parents, so Roger will take care of the baby and become its adoptive father. Roger felt that the baby's fate was the same as his. Back to the present, Roger would not hand over Mash to Brad because he had taken care of Mash since he was a baby. Then he immediately shouted because he felt Mash heard their conversation from outside. Roger told Mash to run away as far as possible. Of course, Brad immediately ordered his two friends to leave the house to catch Mash. When Brad was torturing and was about to kill Roger, Mash came in to beat them casually.
お前ら全員地獄行き
Brad laughed because Mash challenged him. Of course, Brad will kill Mash within 3 seconds. Brad is one of the strongest wizards in the Bureau of Magical Security. But when Brad attacks Mash with magic,
次僕の家族に手出ししたら殺すぞ
Mash can slash magic. Even he can use the magic wand to cancel Brad's attack. Roger was surprised after seeing Mash's strength. He didn't expect that the physical training he gave made Mash have such strength. Shortly after, Brad laughed again after seeing this strange occurrence. He could hardly believe that someone with no magic mark could defeat a wizard so easily. Because of that, Brad challenged Mash to enter Easton Magic Academy. The title would be awarded once a year, and would be honored as a god's choice. If Mash succeeds in becoming the next divine visionary, Brad promises to let Mash live. Even Mash's existence could be acknowledged by gods and society if he was chosen to be the divine visionary. Initially, Roger forbade Mash to obey Brad's words. Mash should run away and live life casually in a place. Then Brad explained that the police would be after Roger and Mash for the rest of their lives. Not only the police, but the entire country will also be after them. So the best choice was for Mash to enter Easton Magic Academy, then become a divine visionary. Then Mash accepts a challenge from Brad and will soon enroll in the Easton Magic Academy. Mash wanted to live a peaceful life with Roger, so he had to do this.